Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to mention something because I'm not entirely happy about this, and it is quite serious as well. In America, you have a place called Bohemian Grove, which is a place where they go to do devil worship in the summer of each year. And you get people like politicians, people from the elite, and others that do rituals and sacrifice babies and do all that sort of stuff in satanic rituals in America. Well, at Bohemian Grove, there's one specific thing that they say when they do these rituals, and that is, Yahweh, I spit up on your fire. So basically what they're saying is Yahweh is Satan the devil, and saying that they're going to spit on his fire and have more power than Yahweh. If that's true, that means that the Christian God is actually the devil, Satan. When it comes to Lucifer, come to that, since I already said Lucifer, that's a different deity altogether. I'll come to that later on. But firstly, let's talk about Yahweh. Yahweh is the same as Jehovah. Yahweh is also the same as Allah in the Islam faith, which the Muslims preach. The only difference between Allah and Yahweh is it's a different abbreviation for the same God. Jehovah, Jah, Yahuwah, Yeshua, and even Jesus Christ, if you include the Trinity, is the same source, the same God. So it's not a fake God. If we look at what's been said at Bohemian Grove, where they say, Yahweh, I spit up on your fire. So, who is Satan and who is Lucifer then? That's a good question because I don't know. But the next thing I want to mention is, like I said, in the past, I've done many prayers in the church, 3 years solid, and my life's got worse and worse and worse. And in 2022, I've had the worstest threat year of direct threats in my whole life. It might not have been the violentest threats of the whole of the threats that I've had in my life or whatever, but I was having anything from 40 to 140 threats most days, and could be as high as 200 threats on a bad day almost every single day of 2022. And I was photographed about the same amount of times per day almost every day of 2022, but because I'm being mistaken as this person called Sven, that's what's caused the trouble to increase, because most of the threats that I had in that year were not under my name. Liam is another person that I'm being mistaken for, and I was being coughed at somewhere between 40 and 200 times per day as well, almost every day of 2022. 2023 went back to a bit of a easier year. This year, 2024, seems to be a bit worse than 2023, but nowhere near as bad as what it was in 2022. However, the setups are just starting to get nastier and nastier at this minute in time, to a point of where it is the same as 2022, as far as that is concerned. But threats and other things are also bad. I can't argue with that. That's on the increase as well. But again, it's still not as bad as 2022 at this minute in time, though we're on the edge of the increase in the last week or so. So that's that. The other thing I wanted to mention is when I came into Chiselborough Church, which is the church I'm in now, which is near Norton Subhampton in Somerset, South Somerset, near Yeovil, we had this feeling of a demonic presence. So as I walked in, it felt like the floor was giving away. So before I mention the floor giving away, if you were to picture a graveyard and being around a graveyard on your own with no one about in the middle of the night, and you get that scary feeling of a demonic presence coming over you that feels like it wants to grab you from behind, and you get that sort of statical feel where your ears are, you hear that sort of crackly noise in your ears, and you get that spine-chilling, cold feeling type feel. Where as soon as I walked into this church, I noticed that occur, and then it felt like the floor was giving. So it didn't feel like the floor wanted to force me down a drop that was straight down into an abyss, but it had a slope feeling suggestion to it. It felt like something wanted to push you under, but wanted to push you down into like a steep slide, but not a slide that's like 100%, if you know what I mean. Like it's slightly sloped, but not very sloped. It had that sort of feeling. And you could just picture from the senses of this feeling, of this cold entity, you could like picture what it was going to be like down there from your senses. Obviously you couldn't see nothing, but because the senses you're picking up on, you're sort of creating a symbolical image in your head of what could be where it wants to take you. So if I was to guess, I mean, I don't know for sure myself, but from the feeling I'm getting, is making the suggestion that it wants to take you into a dark place where you can't see anything, and it's operating instruments or electronics that use no electricity but work on something else that look like Victorian, scary, creepy looking old-fashioned fans or whatever, or old-fashioned harps that look scary at night, or, you know, that sort of thing. So if you picture these sorts of objects, you know, these scary looking, creepy, eerie electronic devices that they had in Victorian times, or the Edwardian period, and then you picture all these scary sort of old-fashioned instruments, you know, these musical instruments, and were to think of them being bent into scarier shapes and warping into very creepy, dark, evil, suggestions. If you were to picture that, and then were to think that these devices can operate and do many different dangerous things, that you can't actually work out what it wants to do, but you can just tell that it wants to do damage, or wants to destroy you, or wants to do things that are very scary or whatever, you sort of picture that. So I don't know exactly what's down below, or whatever this force is that wants to put me down there, but that's the presence I get when I walk into churches. But the other thing that's been happening, and this has been happening basically since I got into the cryo chamber dark ambient music, but I did find out later on that some of the albums that they have released, or some of the tracks, they give Christian titles to in that dark ambient music, which is a company that's owned by Simon Heath, which goes by the name of Atrium Carceri, or Carceri, who is also a dark ambient producer himself. And I do love that sort of music because it's nice and chilled out, it's not too cheerful, and it's quite dreamy, very deep, and also very dark, and I like that type of music. So that is why I bought that sort of music. But since the time I bought that sort of music, it was also in the time period when I started to see these out-of-body experience people witness Jesus after near-death experiences on YouTube. And then following that, straight after, I noticed all these children that were having rapture dreams and seeing Jesus Christ and taking them to heaven. And I found it very interesting, so I watched it. And my father got hold of a Bible for me. But just before that, in the time period that I was buying these cryo chamber CDs, or changing my jungle music into these cryo chamber dark ambient music CDs that I was buying, because I fancied a change, and I don't have many jungle tracks anymore because many have got lost over time, I noticed that I was getting this unusual tapping occur under my feet, and that's been going on from day one since 2019. Before that year, it hasn't occurred in my whole life, so it's very interesting. But it was also occurring very bad, as well as this demonic atmosphere that was being held behind me, or the feeling like you're in a graveyard. And it wasn't just for a couple of minutes, this was persistently for hours upon hours when I was camping at King's Cliff Woodland before I went to camp at Barrow Sand Dunes before I moved to Yeovil at Thorn House at Eastville in Yeovil. So it never happened before 2019 though, or before I got into this dark ambient stuff. And it didn't happen when I went to the Jehovah's Witnesses when I was 15, going to see a couple of their studies, just to get out of the house and scout the Bible as something to do. But then again, I was only a kid, you know, and I just wanted something to do, and I thought it was interesting, you know, just learn about it. But eventually I left it after a few times I went there, and I just didn't find it that interesting. But I did like going for the, you know, for the change and just something different to do. So that's what I did back when I was 15. And then obviously I didn't really have any religious things at all for many years. It wasn't until 2019 onwards that I started becoming religious again and praying to God, where my life got worse and worse and worse. Well, after praying or going to church for a year or so before I moved to Yeovil, I found out that one of the preachers and also one of the people that's been a Christian since the early 80s only needed to pray to Jesus and go to church for 2 years, and said that when he was 32, Jesus came into his life and helped him dramatically and found him a partner within the first 2 years that he started going to church. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, he didn't know what my age was at the time, and I was 10 years on top of that at the time that he mentioned it. So he said, you look at yourself. I mean, when you're going to get somebody soon saying he's not going to leave it too late, like when you're in your 40s or whatever. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to mention my age for now. Later on I mentioned my age and things didn't go down too well. But and I still don't have anyone now, by the way. I'm 43, coming up 44, and the only sex I've had in my whole life is basically being sexually abused as a child, and that is it. We have this Wayne's World business, but it's not a story I want to go into, because it would take a long time to explain that specific story. Now, I nickname it that because people rub it in and have gone back to this issue time and time again, especially after the lockdown. Though it was being mentioned quite frequently through setups or suggestions walking about, or people making threats, up until around about 2005, 2006. But it dropped almost at near enough the same time it started. Also in the 2019 period, I noticed something else that was occurring. If I was walking past a child or a sexual looking woman up to the age of about 40, a demonic presence would occur around me or surrounding me as I walk past these people. And these people, you would think to yourself, to look sexy or whatever, and they'd get that impression that I'm not a very nice person, because some overwhelming presence is coming over to cause that person to feel it as well, which is the same type of presence as I was mentioning earlier on, where it feels like a ghost coming out of a grave wanting to grab you from behind, causing a spine-chilling feel. And that was happening on a regular basis back in that time period. At the beginning of 2024, there was 2 little girls aged somewhere between 9 and 11 that was coming off the farm, and I don't know what they were doing or anything like that, but they were laughing and all the rest of it. Well, they were only just about 10, 20 foot in front of me, so not far in front of me, and I noticed there was a sheet that was an invisible sheet that stopped me going anywhere. So it's like a piece of glass where it stops you going anywhere, but you can see through it. It had the feeling like if you were to sort of bounce on a cushion and it bounces back, or you're on a trampoline and you jump on a trampoline and it pushes you back, and you try and walk through that trampoline and you can't. There's a feeling like that, but it's also a feeling where it's not physically touching your body, but it's stopping you go anywhere. So if you think of 2 magnets that you put together and they don't go together and they push each other away, it's that sort of feeling. But you don't have the feeling of such. The rebound feeling is not as strong. It's there, but it's not as strong as trying to push 2 magnets away from each other, where it's pushing you back at the same time. It doesn't push you back as such, it just stops you going anywhere. And this has happened several times. But also in January, rocks were falling out of walls, bricks were falling out of walls, tree branches were falling onto me, and I was filming it as well, of a specific day when we had a storm in January of 2024. On December the 24th, 2023, I went to Barrack to go into St. Mary Magdalene's Church for Holy Communion, because I wanted something to do and I fancied doing a walk. I knew it was a quiet night, the road would have been quiet, so I thought it's the only one time of the year that I can get out and have a nice walk on the road where I haven't to take scenic routes or quieter areas to go to places. And I thought, well, I'll do that then. When I went into that church, even when I went in that church, I was being treated as a sick bastard and told that I was Sven, or that I raped children or beat women apart and done things like that. And in the end, I decided to leave because of the way I've been treated, and just looked at as a sick piece of shit. So I thought to myself, well, Jesus Christ, when he was in his 20s, had sex with Mary Magdalene when she was 11 years of age. And I didn't tell these people that or do anything wrong, because I didn't want to cause trouble. I just walked out of that church. But you know, people want to look at that before they start digging at me. And when I hadn't had nothing in my whole life, you know, it's not very funny. The only thing out of a female, the nearest possible female I've had, is that Jeanette. Well, she didn't give me sex as such. She needed money to move. So she pretended to be a single woman that's also a prostitute that's looking for a boyfriend. And she wants someone aged 18 to 40. At the time, I would have been roughly, I can't remember the age. It would have been, I guess, 36, 37, 38. I can't remember the actual age I was at that specific time. Where this person, I did find out later on that it was a trap because one of the neighbours that was living there wanted money to move out. So one of the neighbours at my old place were actually saying in conversation that they chose Justin because they know he's an easy target and he's got autism and they know he's not had anyone, and they know that they can start trouble by causing this prostitute to do this. At the time this was mentioned in the corridor, they said it was caused by Dan. I don't know if they're referring to my ex-mugger Dan or another Dan, but they said they're doing it to be spiteful. They just do it to be nasty. And also, they said in the corridor at my old place that this Jeanette is not exactly a very good-looking lady either. And saying, well, they did actually say, I don't even know if she is a lady, but if I was to say what age she was, I'd say she's a little bit older than what she said she was of 18. I'd say she is around about 22. And she is actually more negative looking than Lisa Pike when she was roughly that age or a bit younger. Because Lisa, although she's not my type, this prostitute that claimed to be a single woman robbed me of 800 quid. And I was not very happy about it. She did 6 moves on me to film it. I don't know why she needed to film it. There's no need for her to film it. It wasn't sex as such. It's just 6 moves while she's holding my stomach down on her with her hand, and that's it. She said, "That's what you get your money. That's what you paid your money for. That's all you get." And then obviously she started asking for card details and all the rest of it. And then I found out she's trying to rob me and trying to break in or do other things, claiming that she's hurt her leg and she can't get back. Can I stay here? Can you go out while I stay here? I've got to do something and stuff like that. And I thought, no. So that was the end of that. A couple of years later, when I moved to Yeovil, it might not be connected to this specific person, but some bloke pretended to be a single woman and wanted to meet up with me at Highbridge railway track to smash a knife into me and to throw me on Highbridge railway track. But I don't think it is connected to that specific person for a couple of reasons. I think it could be connected to either Gemma, Amanda, Sally, or Kim. No, that's not guaranteed, but they're the other 4 possibilities and the more likely possibilities than this so-called prostitute that robbed me of £800 back in 2018 area. I think it's April 2018. So after that basically brings that to an end. When it comes to sexuality, I've not had anyone in my whole life, but enemies tell me, and I've mentioned this on many different videos, that I'm supposed to be with people over the age of 37 years of age or over the age of 38 because I'm 43 coming up 44. But the problem is everyone's a single mother and everyone's looking very ugly and very old in this age group. And then you've got to take into account that most of the people that sexually abused me as a child were 20 years younger than me when it comes to the youngest people that sexually abused me as a child. And if we go back to just last year or early this year, I was looking at a lady that's about 10 years older than someone who sexually abused me as a child at the age they would have been when I was abused. And even she told me I was a sick bastard for looking at her, saying that you're supposed to look at older attraction. And even this person had rougher skin and an older looking appearance in the face and a more dry and sarcastic appearance in the face than that person who sexually abused me as a child. And then you've got to take into account that there's someone called Kim. When she was 18, she was in a sexual relationship was someone who was 41 years of age. So just a tiny bit younger than me, but not much. And that's my age today, by the way. So she was 18. She'd probably even go with me if it was back at that time. You know, if I was the age I am, back at the time when she was 18, she'd probably accept me. But she doesn't today, and I'll go through that now. With Kim, when she was with this person, because she preferred the older men, they weren't moaning about age gaps like they do today. It was occurring, but it wasn't all the time. It was just mostly the snobbery type people, the dry and sarcastic type that are moaning about age gaps, or the type that only go with the druggy type people or whatever. Well, what happened is Kim got in a relationship with this chap who was 18 and got pregnant straight away. After 2 years, they split up. Right, that's the end of that. 10 years later, she's 10 years older, so she's not as attractive, and she's put on a bit of age, so she's not going to look as sexy and won't have the smooth skin that she had, say, 10 years ago, before that. Well, when it comes to me and her, there's only 10 years difference in age, not 20 years difference in age. But 10 years later, after she dumped her boyfriend with the 20-year age gap, she sees me, and there's a 10-year age gap. And even she's got me down as a sick cunt because there's 10 years difference in age. And she's 10 years older than what she was when she was with her boyfriend that has a 20-year age gap, which goes back 10 years before. So that's just one incident. And there's another Kim as well, which is connected to Sadie and her side of the family, which is on relatives on my mum's side of the family. But I'm not going to go into details or go into any stories with that, because it's basically a similar issue, but not so much with the age gap, and that person doesn't like me anyway, and none of the people that I've ever known in my whole life like me from where I used to live. So when I moved to Yeovil, let's just say that everybody in the past, or everyone I've known in the past, do not like me or they've fallen out with me. And it's too late to go with anybody at all, because the very last possibility, if you just take that one person, Gemma Ferguson, out of the equation, every single person I've known that became a single mother, the last person or the last possibility of finding anyone that's not a single mother dropped on December the 1st, 2019. And that was the fallout, and that's when every single person fell against me, and then it was only Gemma Ferguson left. But because she doesn't know me that well, and the fact that she got nasty as well and phoned me up saying, you don't know what I got behind me. Because what happened was, even though I was speaking to her on the beach and saying alright, we never got to a point where we were speaking properly. And there's also another person that was on the beach back at that time during the lockdown. She looks very similar to Gemma Ferguson, but she's a bit more rougher looking in the face, slightly more uglier, and she's a single mother of a couple of kids. But Gemma Ferguson, I've spoken to both of them, they both say alright, but Gemma Ferguson was the one I saw in particular, because they both look very similar. But anyway, I left a sheet of paper in her shop where she works to ask if she wants to come out for a coffee and if she's single and all that. She phoned me up, and this is when I moved into Yeovil, because I'd paid a visit to try and make communication with her, and she basically said I'm dead, and she's shouting down, effing and blinding, shouting down the phone at me in a rough, hardened accent, saying, you're not going to be fucking alive anymore, you're just a fucking sad bastard. And you say, you've got the cheek to fucking leave a message asking a 30-year-old fucking girl, or a 31-year-old girl, if she's fucking single, you sick bastard, and say, I tell you what, you're going to end up fucking night, because I'm going to let everybody know about this, you're a sick, sad bastard, you're not going to be alive anymore. But initially when she said that, she said she was going to get the police and all the rest of it. And then after that, she put the phone down and said, you don't come in towards this shop, or I'm reporting you to the police, or I'm going to get someone to do you over if you go anywhere near this shop, and stuff like that. And she says, you don't know how hard the people are that I know. And it just went on and went on like that. And basically all I could do was say sorry, and then that was it. That was the end of that. When I mentioned to the staff at Supported Housing what it actually said on the letter, because I had another copy of it for myself, they said a letter like that shouldn't have caused that. But, you know, with some people it does. So that's what happened. Anyway, let's go back to the issue of Jesus Christ, Yahweh and all that crap, shall we? Now, if you remember what I was saying earlier, that at Bohemian Grove in America, they talk about Yahweh and saying, Yahweh, I spit up on your fire, which is making the suggestion that Yahweh is actually Satan the devil. And if you include the Trinity, you have to include the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ, because they are all one when it comes to the Christianity religion. So obviously, like I was saying earlier, me going to the church has caused many, many problems. My life's worsened, and when I've had an erection and a loud bike occurs while in the church, I see you go, ha 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 ha, while you're in church praying or singing or whatever. And when I've come out of church, there's been threats or people starting on me or whatever. And a crow or seagull's gone, ha 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 ha, whatever. And they make voice sounds saying, you're a child rapist, you raped this girl, you raped that girl, you're being knifed dead, oh, you're going to go to the fire of hell, ha ha, there's no one left, Justin. And then telling me to fuck people that raped me as a child, or saying you're being knifed down, you're being injected with HIV, you're being bashed in, you're being smashed to the fucking floor, hospital bed just, ha ha ha, you're this and that, you know, you beat women about, or lying and making stuff up, you know, on sexuality, or beating women up, etc. You know, none of it's true. And you can get up to 1,000 voice sounds per day. I mean, these voice sounds have been going on for many years. They were happening really bad between the years of 2005 to 2010-ish, maybe 2011. But when we came into 2012, these voice sounds went completely down. And then they escalated in the 2015-2016 area, when I moved to Burnham-on-Sea. And at times it was bad, where you might have a couple of months, but it wasn't persistent. It wasn't until December 2022 that these voice sounds escalated into the way it was when it was in 2005, and it's been like it every single day since that time, right to current day, this minute in time. So it went through a phase where it went down, and then just went off the scale again as soon as I moved to Yeovil. After the first couple of months that I moved there, I first moved into Yeovil in September 2021. Not only are Christians believers in this evil Yahweh God, but they treat you as a piece of shit as well. And when you talk about like never having sex or can't find a partner and looking for a partner, they just say, oh, pray to Jesus, he'll help you, he help you, we can't help, we help you, we don't know anybody, we can't help you, we don't give a shit about you, and so on. And later on, when my life got worse and worse, I stopped going to the church and only went there if I felt like I wanted to do something, because I was completely bored because there's nothing to do in Yeovil. Well, I decided to go back to the Jehovah's Witnesses in 2023, in the beginning part of 23, because I had enough of the way I was being treated at church. Obviously not for the religious side of things, because obviously I knew that the Creator God's fallen and turned against me. But I pretend to like Jesus and God because you've got to in these places, and it's the only way to socialise or make friendship. Well, when I first saw the Jehovah's Witnesses, I was being treated as a sick bastard and told I was a paedophile, and I was getting remarks by some of them, in fact. I'm not sure who it was, because obviously I don't remember the faces back in the early days of when it occurred. And I started to leave because of this issue. But later on I came across Tim, who's one of the elders, and I was discussing all these issues about what was going on there. And I was also mentioning that I've never had a sex partner in my whole life and all the rest of it. And he was saying that I don't think that would be possible within the congregation. He says there are not many single people out there, and many people are trying to find a partner for themselves who have never had anyone as well, and saying it's very unlikely. But once we get out of this evil world and Jehovah creates a new earth on this earth, then he'll help you find a partner after that. So it's basically throwing the buck, basically. And also, a Jehovah's Witness, before I started going to these meetings that I saw at Castle Kerry, said it's very unlikely you're going to find a partner because there isn't anyone that's available, and all the rest of it. When I mentioned that I've been single and going to Christian churches, this is before I went to the Jehovah's Witness Hall and the Kingdom Hall, or whatever you call it. I mean, I have been before, but not for many, many years. The last time I went was when I was about 15, and that was back in the 1990s, because I'm not really a religious person. But because I've never had anyone in my whole life, this is the only way you can socialise, because if you go to these nightclubs or anything like that, people are smashing chairs around, breaking tables up, smashing glass bottles at you, smashing windows, having fights every time you go to a cafe or a bar. It wasn't actually safe to go to these places until around about 2014 when I risked it. And then when I risked it, even in that time, I was being threatened to be smashed in, or people were shouting to kill me or whatever, getting nasty about it. But then I had to stop it completely, because in 2016, late 2016 area, or 2017 or whenever it was, I was starting to be mistaken as Seven, and he's raped children, and he's worked at a play school. He plays a guitar, and he boasts and goes, ah, 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 or he brings the ah, when he speaks in conversation, ah, and like that, and people are mistaking me as that person. So, and that's causing all the threats, where, like 150 threats per day or whatever, especially in 2022, because nearly all the threats I had in 2022 were mistaking me as Seven. There were a couple under my name, but what's making things nastier is since late last year of 2023, or the start of 2024, people are now twisting what Seven's done under my name Justin, my real name. And all the trouble that Seven's done is coming back with me. So they're claiming I played the guitar, claiming I've worked in a play school, claiming that I boast and go ha ha ha, or speak in an accent of bringing that ah out in the word ah, and it's causing many problems. So there's nothing I can do about it, you see. I'm outnumbered. Nobody believes that, you see. And even the neighbours and the staff where I live, they've always had it in for me, because they think I've been Seven ever since day one that I moved there. I mean, the amount of problems I've had. I mean, one of the staff accidentally turned the heating on to cool the room down once, and she was only doing this to be helpful, because it was hot on the day, and it would be the first hottest day since I lived there. So it went up to 30 degrees. So she opened all the windows, and she didn't realise all my old school jungle records were on the radiator. And when she turned the heating on, thinking she turned it off, she melted all my records, and these were all underground old school jungle tracks, which included the unreleased version of DJ Gwange, New Creation on Legend Records. And I thought to myself, bloody hell. But she didn't do it on purpose, so I couldn't do nothing. And then I had money packs go missing. I've had things broken in there, and other bits and pieces. I was talking £1,000 money pack that's gone missing before now. And this is a money pack that I sealed up, because it was designed to pay for all the things that I need for when I move. And I didn't keep it in the bank, because I didn't want to piss about doing that when I moved. But I didn't realise that someone was going to take it. And then I realised that the £500 money pack that I put there as emergency pack, which I hid in the kitchen in case of another issue, or the bank card gets lost or anything like that, and I can't get any money, and I need money in an urgency or whatever, I needed to keep that back. Someone took that as well. And then there's a £200 pack, so I went to the lowest amount. And then obviously it's got to a stage where I don't have any money at all which I can keep on me. In actual fact, my money's a lot less than what it was before I moved there. And we've got another problem, because where I stored my stuff, where I was being mistaken as Seven, I had all my M-discs taken away. This is a place that you pay to store your stuff, because I didn't want to keep it there, because the neighbours were unsteady, and I had to put up with 2 years or more of just banging in sequence of threats to smash me in, to knife me, to kill me, to shoot me dead, claiming I'm a child rapist, to break my legs and arms off, to shoot me dead, you name it. Literally, you can get about 1,000 bangs in one night in sequence to that pattern. Obviously that doesn't happen so much at the moment, because one of the neighbours has been evicted for knifing the staff door in, and then obviously another neighbour's gone at the moment. This is a neighbour I speak to on a regular basis, one I get on okay with to some extent, and he's ended up leaving because of some issues, and he only went yesterday. So, it's not good. But even though that neighbour's gone, it means that the other neighbours are starting, like Peter or Richie. He's always been funny, but because Clayton's not there and because Matty's not there, he's starting to play up now. So things are not good there. But the other problem we have is this energy weapon problem. But first of all, let's talk about the stuff that was in storage. So I rented a garage to put my stuff in. and I wanted to keep it there. I didn't realise it was going to get broken into, so I lost everything. I lost all my jungle music, I lost everything. So I was hitting the roof, and I made a documentary in late March where I was absolutely shouting my head off, losing my temper, and literally I could have been suicidal where all this happened, but I managed to control myself. In actual fact, I might put that video on as a upload basically, because it's not on my new channel. But I absolutely lost it. I'd lost my temper big time. I was really, really losing my temper. But you know, I lost all my music. I mean, I lost a lot of my music at my old place because of energy light weapons that were messing up the CDs. I don't know how it was doing it, but it was messing up all the electronic equipment and it's caused me to lose all my old school underground jungle music. And then people told me I'm a sick cunt if I don't listen to commercial music. But the problem with commercial music is commercial music's happy and jolly, good life sounding and very sexual. And when it comes to modern jungle music, it's all jumpy, you know, it's all jump for joy music, all punchy, with a beat to it and a kick to it. And I don't like that sort of music. I prefer my music slightly different. So, because of this issue of energy weapons that was causing eye trouble and why I was camping at my old place, is the reason why, when I moved, the reason I had to change my music style and went into this dark ambient stuff in 2019. So what happened is, at the time, I rented a storage place. This is one of those expensive places, so this is a more secure place where you had CCTV, where you can guarantee that your stuff's going to be basically 100% safe. But I did have to pay the price, and it was very expensive. And these sorts of places are too expensive to rent today. So this is why I rented a garage instead. That got broken into recently. But going back to when I was at my old place, I rented a place differently. It was a small box thing, and it cost a lot more. So I started getting these Cryo Chamber Dark Ambient CDs. And when I bought them, what I'd do is I'd save them, and then I'd take them to the storage place so that these energy weapons that are being used at Burnham-on-Sea, wouldn't damage these discs. But it gets even worse when we go down the line. So basically I'm paying quite a lot. So I spent roughly, must have been about £800 on these sorts of CDs, because they're not cheap, you see, because they're specialised CDs. They can be anything from £15.99 to up to about 80 or 90 quid. Even just in a few years since the time I bought them, some of these CDs have gone up to £300, even though they've only been released in 2016 or 2017, because the rarity of them and the type of music it is. So I'm thinking to myself, well, it's got to be at least £1,400 that are lost in that music, and I'll come to that in a minute. But firstly, let's go back to this broken into place. So I initially had my stuff stored at Burnham-on-Sea. Some of it was at my nan's, and some of it was in that storage place. Obviously, I didn't like the cost, so I gave that up in the end. And obviously, when I moved to my place, I put all my stuff there. So one of the neighbours was causing petrol smells and banging and very unsteady. And at times, when the fire alarms were off, I was shouted at to be knifed down straight away in the corridor. When I mentioned it to staff, they just ignored everything I said. And in the early days, and sometimes still do it now, but it's not so often, not from the ones that have been working there for some time, but I'm being told I'm a sicko, or you're a fucking paedophile, don't really fucking like you, or you're just a sad bastard, just drop dead, or whatever else. There's a lot of things I can mention when it comes to this sort of stuff, but there's so much I don't want to cause trouble over or whatever, that I'm just going to keep quiet about it. But if we go back between December 2021 to around about mid-2023, it was really bad. So, but anyway, let's get to the next thing. So the next thing is, when staff were doing fire checks in that time period, or just before middle of 2023, they forgot to lock my door, and the CCTV went down several times before that, and went down for periods of months and months and months. Although there was no issues and people were behaving themselves and I didn't get break-ins or anything like that, I decided to rent this garage and pay for a garage which you pay monthly for. Well, later on, which is at the beginning of this year, it got broken into. But the problem is, straight after it got broken into, The government or the elite or whoever's causing this crooked criminal force and action set up against me to nail me as a sick bastard getting aggressive on sexual grounds when I never had one in my whole life, decided to rub it in. So as soon as I had that break-in, all this action was stepped up. But not only was all this action stepped up, but all the threats were stepped up and all the violence was stepped up. And I absolutely lost my temper, and I literally shattered my head off and did a recording which occurred in late March 2024, which is this year. I thought my days are gone. I thought, there's no way I'm going to fucking be nice anymore. I thought, I've been sexually crucified. And then I got to think to myself, I'm at an age where it's too old to have anyone sexy, you know, in your 40s, and people moaning about age gaps with just a couple of years difference in age. But if you go back just 20 years ago, you know, I've mentioned this with Kim, you know, but even not just with Kim, but if you go back, even celebrities, if you go to Carry On Camping, you have Sid James and Barbara Windsor. Barbara Windsor was only about 16, and Sid James was in his 50s or 60s. When they got into a sexual relationship, that's a massive age gap. But it wasn't seen as a problem back then. It's different today. They tell you that you've got to go with the faces. Once you reach the age of 30, or once I reached the age of 30, people were making it clear that I'm a sick bastard if I don't fancy the zombie type. Now, the type of faces that people tell me to be with, or females tell me to be with, is the description I'm going to give you now, which is basically greasy black hair with misted up glasses and gizmo eyes, with tomato ketchup like it looks like someone with a mouth full of tomato ketchup, with all rotted teeth, and where they do a stupid laugh or boast in a stupid way, laughing backwards, and give that very social look, or sort of pose as if they're a single mother and very sociable in these very sociable places type of look. They often fat people with rashes across their chest and whole body of rough skin, and look like they got warts or the disease shingles right across their face. And basically, I'm told if I don't go with that type, I'm a sick bastard. And I've actually been chased with a knife because I've told someone I won't go with that Lisa, who I don't fancy, who gives that attraction. And because the information I'm giving now, I'm not going to give the surname of this person on this specific video. But I've actually been chased with a knife, and neighbours have got aggressive with me, and even the staff have told me that I'm sad, and said that I should be with that type, and saying that there's no problem with that, saying she's a nice looking, we didn't say pretty, but she's a nice looking woman, and say you shouldn't be fussy with what you go for. You know, you're supposed to go with what you can get, you know, and all the rest of it. And I thought to myself, you don't tell people to go who have been sexually abused and had no sex in their whole life to go with the reverse attraction that everybody else has had, when you look at all my enemies who have had sex with Amy Weston, who is basically a model with the softest skin you get in a woman, does sexual looking like Gabby Borges, and she's fucking fucked everybody, if you know what I mean. She's like a village bicycle. She's had fucking thousands of friends and fucked thousands of people. Yet, if I was, you know, even today, if I was to look at her, I'd be known as a sick cunt. But there was one mess up. If we go back to 2022, which is a really bad year, there's a person called Emma I used to know at Avalon School, and she's 1 year older than me. I was speaking to her in town. But before we go any further, this Lisa is the same age as Emma, this ugly Lisa I'm referring to. I won't say her surname because obviously the video I'm making, I just gave a description that's not very good, and it would cause offence if I say her surname. Well, basically, I was speaking to this Emma, and these two rough bearded type people started around with me thinking this Emma's 20 years younger than what she really is. And they told me I'm a sick cunt, and if I don't get away from this lady now, that they'll fucking smash me in, saying that you're supposed to up the age and you're supposed to be with this Lisa, who is exactly the same age as this Emma, if not slightly younger than this Emma by a few months. And also, they did the same when I spoke to this lady that looks like a poodle dog, who, going back in the 1990s, say 1996, that I saw at Yeovil College, I thought she was very ugly looking and nobody fancied her. Everyone thought she was really ugly. But when you look at the type of people we got today, she's actually probably the sexiest in my age group that you could fancy, and she still has smooth skin. I often see her sister, and I think her sister's name is Gemma. And if I look at her sister, called Gemma, I can't fancy her. Although she's younger, she looks like an old granny with wrinkly skin and grey hair. However, she is slightly older and is roughly my age or a bit older. She might be younger, but I don't think she is. She's definitely taller than me when she was at Yeovil College back in 1996. And she looked like she was a bit older than me. Though I can't guarantee that 100%. Even so, it wouldn't be a problem. She's turned against me. But before we go any further, I saw her on the train going to Weymouth in 2022. And I wanted to say alright to her, but I couldn't because a couple of people were mistaking me as Sven, and they were saying I'm a sick bastard and saying, get your fucking eyes off that lady. You want to consider your fucking age, mate. And I thought to myself, there's nothing wrong with looking at her because she's the same age or around the same age. But I didn't say anything. And then another person started, an old chap, saying, yeah, you know what you're looking at, don't you? You wait until I get off this train and I'm going to fucking smash you in. And started shit like that. So anyway, I didn't want to lose my reputation. I thought if I go any further, I'm going to lose my friendship with her. And she's not going to, because you could tell that she might have remembered me. And I didn't want to mess it up. So she went back in her crowd after she went to use the toilets in the train. And when she went back with her crowd of people, the crowd of people she was with were insulting me, getting nasty, saying that I was Sven and saying that he's sick and all the rest of it. So I sort of had to leave and exit the train without seeing her. And I thought, I'll try and speak to her again or try and get to re-know her on another occasion where I'm not in a situation where the situation's like that. And when I can see her on her own or whatever. But that is never to be, because the next time I see her, she's got a boyfriend, and the following time I see her, she's pregnant. And when we come after that, we've got suggestions to say I'm a sick cunt, a paedophile, and rapist, and whatever else. And then obviously, not from her as such, but her boyfriend, who's slightly younger than her. And obviously it's too late for that as well. When she sees me, she gives me the evil eye, but it's not evil as such, it's more like, I'm concerned about you, I don't like you, I do like you, I'm not sure, but stern as in wary, maybe, sort of, but I'm not happy, but I am happy, sort of is hard to tell, but something's changed her since that time. And this Sven threat has caused so many problems, it's caused many people to fall out with me, and caused everybody that was female that I've ever known in my whole life, where I used to live, in the Burnham-on-Sea area, or Bridgewater, or Taunton, or whatever, that area, everyone I used to know, right since childhood, that are female, that are sexual, or to some extent still sexual, or even new people, even from the new age, that I know from that time have turned against me because of this Sven business, or thinking I'm Sven, where people are stirred shit, or this person's been well known as and looks like me or whatever. I do not know. But if we go back to 2003, they were putting pictures of Ian Huntley and other people that have killed children or child rapist killers or whatever on TV, but trying to choose people that look like myself to try and cause trouble. And then they started releasing music tracks to tell people that I'm a sick cunt and need to be hit off. And then on the Fathers for Justice in 2008, when I'm living in Bridgewater, they decided to put scaffolding all up around my place, parked a rent-a-kill van outside my place and a Connaught van, and opened the Palace nightclub for extended hours in the bar next to me. And everyone kicking off, threatening to kill me and saying that they knew where I lived under the name Justin back at that time. But the good news is it was a mixed side. So you had people that knew that were stirring shit with other people that were trying to kill me or wanting to break in or knife me dead or shoot me dead or whatever else. Between the two sides, there was fights, arguments, and people controlling each other to make sure that no one climbed the building to get into my place and the rest of it. And things were pretty smoothly. And then you'd have people that are really rough that would just stand outside my place wanting to either break in or guard the place. And at the end, nothing happened because people were controlling themselves and making sure that none of this all happened. But going back in those days, it wasn't all one-sided like it is today. Since I moved to Burnham-on-Sea, it went all one-sided. And believe it or not, when this Sven threat very first began, it was amongst the friends of my ex-mugger, Dan Morgan. And it's always the bearded type or the type that looks like Dan Morgan's friends that are always starting on me with these severe threats. And because everyone's getting a beard cut now, and getting a beard grown now, and all look like that, especially since after the lockdown, it's been like that. But if we go back to the lockdown business, when setups actually receded, so they were easing the setup slightly, and threats were down, except for one time period, which was November of 2019. So they said that you paid the price for raping specific females' names, like Sadie and Stephanie. But the problem is, even though they said I paid the price for it, I've never had sex with them or never raped them. So I wasn't very happy about it. And then they were making the suggestion that I paid the price for writing the Bomb Hinckley power station graffiti on the path in 2006, which I did after I got pissed because there was a load of bad things that happened in that time period, where some stuff was taken from my place, I was punched, and something sexually happened, and there were a lot of sexual things that happened in threats and whatever else, whatever you want to call it. There was just a lot of things that went down wrong, and I lost my fucking temper, and that's why I writ it. And then people threatened to shoot and kill me at the same time, saying that he's not having nothing, he's just a sick bastard. He's got to get through to him, he's not having anything at all, never. And saying we fucked up, we made all these teenagers single mothers and all the rest of it. And so on. But if we go back to 2003, they've been pissing about with the age of consent to stop me getting anyone. So, how did it work? Susan fancied me, I fancied Susan. But I fancied Susan more than she fancied me. So she was like a smooth-skinned type of lady, just a few years younger than me, because take into account I was only in my early 20s in 2003. And she was 17. She just turned 17, and I would have been in my early 20s, as I said. So it wasn't much of an age difference. And back then, that wouldn't have been a problem. I mean, people 18 or 17 back then would even go with people my age that I am today, or near enough. There might have been some people that disagreed with it, even back then, but it was still happening. But today, that wouldn't be allowed at all. People won't have it. They tell you you've got to go with a zombie type, or you're known as a sick cunt once you reach the age of 30 up, and a male person. But anyway, but what they do tell you, do tell you, if someone's had a bad life, they don't give a shit if there's a 20-year difference or 30-year age difference, saying if someone's had a bad life and they're suffering for a shag or whatever, these teenage girls, they say they're helping, But when it comes to me, it's a different story, and because I don't know anybody that's like that, and I've never known anyone in my life, that's not going to be possible for myself. But anyway, let's go to the next subject. Next subject, Susan. So she was 17, and they upped the age of consent from 16 to 18. So I had a load of paedophile threats and told I was a sick bastard and shouldn't be with her because they brainwashed all the people on the estate, turned them against me, and I had a whole load of enemies. 1 year later, after they upped the age of consent of sex from 16 to 18, they dropped it back down again to 16. But the bad thing that they've done over time is upping the age of people buying alcohol and drink. So going back to Victorian times, children could buy alcohol and drink. And going back in Victorian times, you were having child prostitutes on the street, fucking men older than me. Obviously, that's unheard of today. In actual fact, there isn't prostitutes today. We'll get to that subject in a minute. But firstly, let's mention the age of buying alcohol. So obviously, they upped the age of alcohol from 16 to 18. They did the same with cigarettes. Then with the alcohol, it went to 21 and then 25. And then they tried pushing it up to 30, which they haven't done yet, but they have tried. When it comes to prostitutes, this is an interesting one, because going back to the 1990s, I wouldn't have been able to find a prostitute. My life was controlled to have enemies in my path only, and it was up until the year 2000 or 2001, I was just walking into nasty people wherever I went. It's the same today, but back then, wherever I go, I was just walking into dangerous people. And if we go back to the days when Dan was mugging me for my money, Every single time I went out, I was walking into him. And he later admitted this to a couple of his mates, or he mentioned it somewhere, it got around. Nowadays, I don't have any trouble from him, but 6 months before I moved from Burnham-on-Sea, he walked from behind, and when I saw him, he sort of stopped. But the problem we have then is when I moved from Burnham-on-Sea, I did a camping trip in September 2023 to Burnham-on-Sea. I was photographed and I was surrounded with people being mistaken as Cevennes, and someone was carrying a needle with some orange substance in it and wearing a plastic glove and wearing a t-shirt with a snake on it, and also it looked like my ex-mugger, but a younger version of him, or it could have actually been my ex-mugger, but I didn't actually look, and he was on his smartphone. So I had to sort of play about just hiding behind trees and phoning people up to be ready to pick me up if I can't do anything, or in a dangerous situation where I'm fucked. So I spent 3 hours just waiting for these people to go and finding a way where I can get out of there. Eventually everyone disappeared, and I sort of hid, and they didn't see where I hid, and they thought I fucked off somewhere or sneakily got out of the way. But I didn't. I stayed there the whole 3 hours, and obviously they left. While having the September camping holiday, because of the heat wave, where it reached 34 degrees in my flat and I couldn't sleep in there because it was making me very ill, and also I had other appointments as well. I think there was an 8-day period in total. I originally thought it was 9, but then I forgot that I stayed up mine for 1 night in that time period I was camping. Let's go to the last day, shall we, that I was camping in 2023. And this is going home on the bus. So we have record-breaking setups for North Petherton since in the whole history. Every single time that I was in North Petherton, in the time I was camping, it was record-breaking setups. I mean, I was camping in Kingscliff Woodland back in 2021, but the setups were bad, but not record-breaking. Nearly every single day that I visited North Petherton or waited for the bus, it was record-breaking every day with setups. But let's just talk about coming back. I mean, there's lots of problems, there's been lots of threats. There's well over 1,000 threats where I've been mistaken as Cevennes, or people starting on me in the 8 days that I was camping between Barrow near Burnham-on-Sea. And even when I was camping at Barrow at Burnham-on-Sea, I was having to move from one place to the other almost every single night because people were threatening to knife me or kill me. And I didn't feel safe where I was camping. So I didn't have my tent in one place on any of those nights, apart from the first 2. And even there, I almost had to move my tent because of these issues. And and I was almost caught where I was hiding my tent or putting my tent up because they kept on timing masses of people in my direction. Take into account, I was living there for a good 8 years. In the 8 years that I was living there, I've never known the beach or never known as many people walk into me or past me as I did when I went camping back in September of last year. Anyway, let's get to the last day. When I was at Kingscliff, there was actually someone that made a gunshot in the woodland and gave me threats under my proper name, Justin, threatened to smash me in and kill me, thinking I'm a child rapist because I used to get child rapist threats under my proper name before the Cevennes threat came in. But that wasn't on the night that I left. Actually, where I camped, it wasn't too unsafe, but it's certainly not something I'd do out of choice if I was to camp there again. But the year before, I was camping at Portland near Weymouth at the lighthouse, and this is when I was getting these 140 threats per day. And I was thinking to myself, well, I haven't been to Weymouth for 20 years, or Portland Lighthouse, That doesn't make any difference. People are mistaking me as Cevennes, people are getting angry, threatening to shoot me dead, shouting their heads off at me, threatening to fucking knife me down and all the rest of it in a mass. They keep on mistaking me as this person, so they must be someone on telly or something. I don't know, but this person is very well known. But anyway, let's get to that last night, because I've been trying to say that last night. In the morning, obviously I do what I want to do. Literally every dog walker that I passed walking out of the woodland, or every person I passed, was nailing me as a sick bastard, saying, you're a fucking sick cunt, Cevennes, shouldn't be camping up here, or you're going to have your fucking face smashed, or you're going to fucking be beaten up or shot dead, or you're a child rapist or whatever. That's every single person I passed. When I got to the road, the Country Lane Road, Every person in the car either shouted something out the window, said something, calling me a fucking dangerous paedophile, even the old chaps, and even the next couple of old people that walked past were giving me threats, saying this and saying that on the last day that I was walking past. When I reached the next bit of the road, 2 people from a house window, top house window, council house window, rough people, started saying I'm a sick bastard and you're going to have your fucking face smashed in, or you're going to be fucking knife dead or shot dead or all the rest of it. And then obviously the cars that are passing down there, apart from that one car with that very old person who was backing into a drive, every single person in a car either gave me an evil look or started saying something or muttered something under their breath as I passed them, or made threats out the window. When I got to the bus stop on the main road with all these setups like Somerset Waste Partnership, knife-shaped vehicles, gun-shaped vehicles, smashing you to fucking pieces, rubble smasher, flatbed, night down t-shirt, all this organised setups I mentioned. And that organised setup's getting worse and worse. The wording, for example, like smash you to fucking pieces t-shirt, knife you down, gothic jumper, take your life apart, there's hundreds and thousands of vehicle names or t-shirt names with these sorts of messages coming out literally daily. It occurs daily, not hundreds a day or thousands a day, but it's coming out as messages in this malicious pattern daily. Then you've got overhanging trailers trying to rip your legs off from behind, bikes to erections, people shouting at you, other suggestions like that, people coughing and sneezing, it goes on and on. These setups, there can be up to, well, on a good day, there's usually about 1,000 setups a day on an easy day, or suggestions. And then it can go up to 2, 3, 5,000 a day, depends on the day, it can be really bad. You can pass a street and every single person can be timed to come out that house on that street. It's that heavy. But anyway, if we go back to what I want to say, because I want to complete what I wanted to say about coming back on the last day. So I got through the woodland to North Petherton to the bus stop. So people in cars were shouting at me as they were passing. Not everybody, but you had several. When I got on that bus, after a couple of teenagers at the bus stop were nailing me as a sick bastard and photographing me and whatever, there was about 10 people on the bus that were giving me a hard time, saying I'm a child rapist, I'm going to smash him off the fucking path into the road, I'm going to smash his fucking head off, bash his fucking brains out and inject him with HIV and going to fucking beat the fuck into him when he gets off the bus. I thought I had to move positions on the bus, so I went from the top deck to the bottom deck. And when I got to the bottom deck of that bus, more people were starting on me. That's included in the 10. So 10, roughly 10 altogether. And there was a couple of people that were making remarks in conversation, thinking that I was Savenne as well. So eventually I got really pissed off and I got off the bus. I didn't retaliate or anything like that. And I decided to rather than go to the bus station, I decided to get off at the bottom end because of all the trouble that was on the bus. When I got off the bus, initially I had 2 people start on me, calling me a rapist and thinking I was Savenne. So I walked to Lidl's. There was 5 people that started on me in Lidl's thinking I was Savenne, saying I'm a sick cunt. And even the police officer that was in there heard it. But whether he took note of it, he heard what was said, but whether he made a note of it or reported it or anything like that is unknown. And the police car was obviously in the car park. As I walked out of Lidl's, there was 2 people in cars. One was a woman saying, "You're not going to have anything now, you're a sick cunt. You're not ever having sex," or something like that. But I can't remember the word and shit. Then a bloke with a beard said, "You're fucking being hit off. You're a sick cunt. You're fucking at it. You're fucking loyal. Your life's gone. You're dead. You're fucking dead, you cunt." And stuff like that. Then straight after that, there's 2 other people that are walking on the path on one side of the road that start saying that I'm a sick cunt. And then the person in the house next to the fish and chip shop on the main road starts shouting stuff in the window saying that you're fucking going, you're a sick cunt, and thinking I'm Savenne. And then there was more trouble. I get to the bus stop and eventually after a few more threats and a few people in cars shouting out their windows at me, I managed to get on the bus. And when I get onto the bus to go from Taunton to Yeovil, there's some people on the back of that bus who are giving me a hard time, photographing me thinking I'm Savenne, but they're more laughing, but at the same time being serious, saying he's fucking going. He's going to be shot dead, he's a rapist, and all the rest of it. And not only that, but when I got to Yeovil bus station, although it was only one threat walking from the bus station to my place, there was yet another threat. And that's just walking home. That was just the day I left in the morning from the woodland to go back to Yeovil. And when you take into account most days are like this every day, and then you've got other force against you as well. Let's come to the other sorts of setup, shall we? I'm going to give you some vehicle names if I can remember them. So you've got the Smash You to Pieces Rubble Smashing Flatbed. You've got a name that says something that will offend my dad, so I don't say what it is. And they sort of use the interpretation that this person is your man in a sort of bad, suggested way, but it's actually a van that's a repairman and repairs vans, but it can be looked at as if it can make a sort of different suggestion. And then you'd have Smash You to Pieces Rubble Smashing Flatbed Lorry. The Tables Have Turned van. They're always timing black and blue cars, or cars that are shaped as a knife, or timing sexual looking suggested cars in my direction. A gun shaped looking car, and bikes to erections and whatever else. Let's think of some more names. Rent-a-kill van, row-kill van, rapid kill van, gunpoint van, making a kill DVD carried in your direction. Then you'll have a just-in-time van, which has a picture of a double-bell alarm clock on the van, which is being smashed by a cartoon character using a mallet, where the glass and the bells being thrown off where the alarm double bell alarm clock is being smashed, and in the middle of the clock face it says just in time, and that's a green picture of a clock with green white writing on a white van. But there's also another just in time van as well, which is just green writing on a van, but it's not the same company. Then you've got a Langford construction van, which is my surname. We've had sort of t-shirts where it says knife down, or sick cunt on a t-shirt, you know, a gothic black jumper. Then you've got van names like Child Rakers, Night Attack van. Then you've got fairground lorries like Fathers for Your Pleasure van. You've got the Grannies for You van, Up the Age van, Chic Baxter van, that can apply sick bastard. There's another van that I used to see on a regular basis. I don't see it so much now, and it's one in Yeovil, and that's Little Angus van, which can make the suggestion little bastard. And you know, it's just spherical wording like that, but it's every day. It's not just some days. This is all the time, permanent fixture of setups. I mean, you can have up to several hundred vehicles, even 500 vehicles, especially when I was camping at Portland near Weymouth in 2022. This action is fucking nasty, I tell you. It's like I said, you can have up to 5,000 setups in one day on a bad day. I mean, that's including like every car on the road being done in a suggestive way. I mean, going back to just 2019, something like that, maybe a bit before that, I can't remember. The highest I ever recall, 1,000 cars on the road, is about 70% to every car. But after the lockdown, they can quite literally get each and every single car on the road out of 1,000 cars to be done in a black and blue, sick white. I mean, every single car, not just say 98 not 98% of the cars on the road, not 998 cars on the road. They can get the 4,000 cars on the road to be done in a pattern where every single car is coming out in a black and blue pattern, or grey, white, or sexual, in a way to apply a message. It's never been that fixed before. And other things that they've been doing is when I've been eating sandwiches, timing a person to sneeze in my face as I open the sandwich up, or whatever. This is after the lockdown. Timing people that look like me to go out chasing little girls or chasing women at the bus stop when I'm waiting for a bus. Usually when it's the last bus home and I can't get home and there's like 10 miles to get home. And you think to yourself, well, that can come back at me. And it has. People have shouted at me. And I've had to tell people to get their fucking facts right, saying that's nothing to do with me. You go and fucking sort that person out down there. You know? And then they start arguing, saying I'll get a knife out and I'll fucking smash you, I don't believe you, and all the rest of it. So then I have to get the phone out to dial 999. And even in 2021, when I moved to Thorn House in Yeovil, people were giving it a hard time then. And saying I've been chasing people. And then they've been sort of using the music industry and media against me. As I mentioned in the past, there's been hundreds and hundreds of incidents in the media, like time child rapists on television that look like me in jail to try and hit me off, and trying to choose days where they want to kill me or whatever, using force against me. But it doesn't stop there, because I've had clairvoyant readings for girlfriends. I was predicted Chloe, a blonde lady who's 18 years of age, I didn't really know that well, but she didn't dislike me, not at the time. She sort of kind of knew me to some extent, but not very well. She's more connected with someone else I knew on the estate of where I used to live, who was a bit older than me, and she used to get on all right with me because she knew I lived on the estate and always said all right and whatever. And Chloe was basically a relative to her, but the problem is, what happened is when she predicted the girlfriend being on carnival night and saying that you must go to North Petherton Carnival for this to occur in 2011, take into account I already put this on Facebook before the fuel explosion occurred, but on the M5 a fuel explosion occurred one night before that event was to take place, and they took off the carnival. So the clairvoyant reading went straight through. And then after that they were setting up setups. Back in those days the setups weren't as bad as what they are now. Ever since the lockdown, the setups are 4 times more aggressive and more vicious and more outright nasty, and it's 4 times heavier as well than what it's ever been before. But there has been times where it's been just as heavy and just as nasty, but it's extremely rare. And one of the occasions is when I went to Bridgewater Magistrates Court, and the other time was when I went on a day trip with family to Dolverton on one specific time, where quite literally almost every single house on the road that I passed on that route, there was an obstacle timed. Quite literally, you're looking at, out of 100 houses on the road, at least 3/4 of those houses where they managed to cause everyone's movement to be around me in that way. And they still do that today. In actual fact, all this setup and all this malicious action has increased over the last couple of weeks. And the loud bite to erections is also on the increase for the last month. So it's been getting a lot worse and worse. On dating sites between 2003, I didn't actually use them in 2003, I was putting posts up in shop windows to contact mobile phone numbers. I didn't have phone numbers, and then obviously in the early days people were getting a bit offended because they didn't want people to contact them on their numbers, and I couldn't find anyone that was single because people kept turning people against me, or people would only have the sexual type for themselves and turn everybody against me. When I moved to West Street in Bridgewater in 2005, in June of that year, I started putting notes up in windows. Back in that time, it was approved that you could ask if someone's single or wants friendship, and people wouldn't moan too much about you putting it in a shop window because people know how difficult it is to find a partner. But nowadays, that's not allowed. They won't even allow you to put friendship in the window. That's all been due to the way people are changing and all the rest of it. You can't do that anymore. So I've spent over 10 grand on dating sites between the year of roughly 2003. This includes all payments, anything from going to London to this dating agency, which can only offer these disgusting looking ugly types. And in actual fact, I'm probably the prettiest person that was on any of their people there. Because all these speed dating places have gone under, you see. Because no, they haven't got enough people. They can get fellas, but they can't get females. So they've closed down all these speed dating agencies in Bristol. So when I went to go and try and find that information out in about 2012 area, or just before that it's not possible because they can't make their money. They can't put the events on because there's no single people. So you can't do that. But as far as dating sites are concerned, initially I went to Bridgewater Library. I made payments on some of these sites, and they deliberately closed the sites down within a month of me signing up to them, including just-in-time dating, which was one of the earliest ones that I joined, because I didn't know the names of dating sites and I was just looking for anything that was on the internet. In 2005 to 2006, the beginning part of 2006, there's over 50 dating sites that I signed up to where those dating sites closed down. All my accounts got disabled. In 2006 to 2008, there was another 50 sites where that occurred, including paid sites. And then they were blocking me seeing members on these dating sites, especially on Asperger's dating and autistic dating, and there was no way I could get my money back and I was being robbed. And then they were doing the same on Zoosk, and obviously when it came to dating sites later on, when I went on to escort sex sites, they were making fake profiles on professional dating sites that are official, pretending to be single women, when in actual fact they're dead females, where they're using profiles of females that don't exist to pretend to be a single woman when there's actually nobody at all, just making money, charging £1.50 per message. So in the end I had to give up on all that and go on to Viva Street, and this is where we have the Jeanette prostitute issue, the one that scammed me for no sex. She did a few moves on me just to film it, to rob me of 800 quid in a sly way. That is it. That's the end of that. So right, going back to clairvoyant readings, I guess. Clairvoyant readings were predicting me girlfriend's Chloe on many occasions, going back to the early days. Actually, one of the earliest clairvoyant readings was a past life clairvoyant reading, which was in the first couple of clairvoyant readings of the very first ever clairvoyant readings I had. And this lady basically told me that in my past life I was sexually abused as a child, as a little girl, and I was being stopped from getting sex. Then I was working in a laboratory, and then I died tragically. Now I can't remember what the rest of the information was that was given, but she said that this life's going to be much more different. You're actually going to get a partner in this life for the things that happened to you in your last life. But she doesn't know that I've been sexually abused in this life as well. But it didn't get better. It got 50 times worse after that time. And after that time, I'm too old to have anyone, because they're moaning about the age gaps. So the only sex I've had is being sexually abused as a child. And then when I'm born again in my next life, that's all I'm going to get again. Because they're making the suggestion with these cruelty setups that once they rip me to pieces in this life, with all the setups I was mentioning like just now about so many minutes ago, talking about black and blue cars and all the rest of it, and symbolic suggestions and messages on vehicles or whatever, well, they're making the suggestion that in my next life they're going to rip me to pieces again, and saying before you're at the age of having sex that you're going to have your life taken, and that they're going to keep on doing it in every life, and they want me destroyed, they want me to pay for things that I haven't done, or they're doing it out of spitefulness or because of their religion. I don't know, but that's what's been going on. Anyway, let's get to the later clairvoyant readings. So it was Chloe initially, except one who was suggesting Stephanie Hill or Stephanie Jill, going back in the early days. At that time she was single, but I couldn't ask her if she was single or anything like that, because enemies were taking the piss out of her, or taking the piss out of me, because she had mental disabilities, and they were looking down at me or taking the piss out of me, and also it's too dangerous to speak to her while this situation was going on across Bridgewater. And then obviously the police were accusing me of trying to rape her as well on an occasion when they came to my place in the early days, and I said, you're making it up. I said, it's not true, and it's lying and all the rest of it. And then I told the police that I haven't actually spoken to her since 1993 or 1994 when I was at Elmwood School. Later on the police stopped giving me a hard time, but it wasn't until after 2012, because they were accusing me, or people were making stuff up about me, and police were seeing me on a regular basis. And actually police hit me in the cross side of the head on one occasion when I was pissed, when they came to arrest me for a piece of paper that I left outside, because they're saying I'm causing trouble with it. But the actual paper that I actually left outside wasn't because I was causing trouble, but it was actually threats that I was writing down that were being caused to me, but they didn't see it in that way. And another thing is, this young lady, who was a sexy lady, asked me out if I was single at Bridgewater Fair in the 2010 area. So I was dying for a piss, so I said, would you wait out there while I just go in from my place for a piss a minute? As I went to go into my place, because I had a sheet of paper outside, Mr. Freeman arrested me for this piece of paper, and he spent 15 minutes to chat with me saying that you've got to come into the police station, I'm arresting you for this, because I'm not happy with the information content on the letter. And then, while pissing about doing that, the time I went out to re-meet up with this sexy lady, this really sexy lady, very similar looking to Amy Weston, I couldn't find her again. So the police messed that up. So there's been many, many things like this that have occurred. I mean, even when the occasional person has spoken to me on a dating site, I can't guarantee what the person looks like. But when I have the very rare, there's been no more than 5 people that I've ever tried meeting up out of everybody. One of those I couldn't even get off the bus. They were one of those really zombie, ugly looking types. And she was sort of waving to me and said, I thought to myself, well, I can't even stand the look of that. I thought to myself, no one can fancy that, And one other occasion was a note that I left in Glastonbury in the shop window. And that's happened recently as well. One from about 10 years ago and one recently. Both people that phoned me up, you didn't need to go and see them or ask. And so I just said, no, I'm not interested. I didn't need to go and see what they looked like. You could tell by their voice straight away that these were these really ugly munter types. They're really ugly. Just by listening to their voice on the phone. You could tell straight away. So I said no without meeting them up. There's no way I can take to that type. But the problem is, I'm reaching that age where they all look like that. And that's why I can't use dating sites anymore. I've got to wait for... This is why I'm praying to God and doing all the rest of it. But like I said, God's turned against me and things are getting worse. Then obviously you've got to think about Bohemian Grove, which I was mentioning earlier on. And I spit up on your fire Yahweh in these satanic rituals, which makes you wonder whether Yahweh is the devil and that it's being hidden from us and that we are getting the Bible, which is lies, basically. I mean, if they want you to have something that's lies, they'll let you have it. They won't charge you for it. But if you go for something like Finbar Books and go for occult books like Carl Nagel or something like that, you're looking at 40 quid for one little book with about 10 pages. It's like that sort of thing. So that's just a possibility. But, so that's that. So the next person I went to meet up with, there was a road closure on that day, and I couldn't meet up with her, and there's no other way that I could get there. And then there was another occasion where I was going to meet up with someone in a shop, which wasn't really dating as such. It was connected to someone that my cousins knew that was possibly single, and they decided to shut that specific shop for the week, and that all fell through, and then those sort of things just got mislaid, and they had no communication with that woman, and everything sort of just went apart. Then there was another occasion where the government made a specific day for causing everything to be closed down or something, for some event or something that they had to do. And it was on a day where I was going to meet up with another woman, which was never to be because of that issue. There's been many different times where things like this have happened, not just on dating, but in things like going to the dentist, going to appointments. They try forcing me off the bus. They try getting me, they've done many different things to try and fuck up even that sort of thing. I've actually missed dental appointments in the past because they fucked it up, where they caused these problems or caused, people with chicken pox or people with shingles or people trying to sneeze in your face, just doing anything they possibly can to push you off in different directions or to throw you off course of your plans of the day. So if there's a serious plan, they're trying to defeat it. They defeat everything you do, and they're trying to make the suggestion that they want to rip you to fucking pieces and destroy you. But they want to rub it in on sexuality. But going to sexuality, when it comes to sexuality, they've never been as nasty as they've ever been before when it comes to sexuality. Since I moved to Yeovil, or since the lockdown, and all this action has been stepped up, when it comes to sexuality, they're getting nastier and nastier than ever before with these setups. Also, throughout the years on dating sites, we've had this issue where everyone's a single mother before the age of 18. And then obviously they've got congratulations all over their internet page and all the rest of it. But the problem is, you can't go around asking anyone younger than that if they're single, because they're a child. So it makes it literally impossible. So you just got to sort of hope for the best. If someone's a child and they added you as a friend on the internet, like a celebrity or whatever, then you can probably accept them as a request, but because they're a child, you can't actually speak to them and do anything like that. So what's annoyed me is some of these people that have made friendships, you've had them there, you've never spoken to them, and then obviously they boast about being a single mother or that they've had a baby. So that's another thing that's annoyed me over the years. But just last year, or the beginning of this year, there's one thing that really, really pissed me off. There was a 9-year-old girl with an 11-year-old girl, and a boy aged about 13 or 14. To me, he seems like he's around the age of 14, but not quite as high as 15, possibly the end of 13 if I was to guess, but I don't know the exact age. Nor of the two girls, but I'd say they're roughly 11 and 9. So firstly, they came to the church door, and the 9-year-old says, "Oh, why does he have to be in here?" And then the boy, aged about 14, says, "Well, we can't do it in here," in that sort of accent. And then after that, the 11-year-old girl gives me an evil look. And it's quite a hard look, actually, for a girl. I mean, you're looking at a really sort of serious, hardened look. I mean, a real hard look. For a blonde girl, it's like, you know, that eye beastie look was fucking like she was giving like a strong look to it. And I was sort of surprised at that. But anyway, he started mouthing off saying, "Well, I'm not fucking scared of that fucker. He's a fucking beautiful. I'll fucking bash his fucking head in on that fucking floor in the church. I'll break his fucking skull open. I'll bash him. And I'm fucking afraid of him." So then he slams the church door, take into account he's only 14, and then he kicks the church door, starts saying something to his girls that he's speaking to. Then after that, he opens the door again. I can't remember what he said this time, if he said anything. And then after that, he slammed the door again and they walked off. So you're thinking to yourself, only 14, just because he wants possible sex with one of those girls, yet he's got me down as a sick cunt when he wants sex with a child, basically, even though he's only a child himself. But yeah, he's got me down as a sick cunt. But it's the same with everybody. Most of these people are giving me threats, like those 200 threats a day on a bad day. You know, when I was going to Portland, or when I was walking around Yeovil in 2022, all these people that are photographing me or threatening to smash me and all the rest of it, they're all these sexual smooth-skinned type females. They might not all be blondes, they might be these brunette type people, but they always got that soft skin or that smooth skin or that sexual look to their face. All my enemies, all these people, and they're all single mothers, a whole lot of them. All these people, like these rough, nasty people that start on me, these bearded type people, they're always going on saying, "I'm going to fucking bash you in, fucking put you in a hospital bed, you're a fucking sick cunt, you're a fucking child rapist," all the rest of it. "I'll fucking knife you down, I'll inject you, I'll take your fucking life away, you're being fucking shot dead." Getting really nasty and aggressive about it. But they're not taking into account their females. If I was to look at their females on a dating site, their girlfriends, they tell me I'm a sick bastard to up the age and to look at these fucking ugly people that look like their teeth are all rotted and got tomato ketchup in their mouth, or got black greasy hair with misted up glasses and gizmo eyes, and, you know, shingles all over their face, or warts all over their body, or rashes all over their skin and their chest and whatever. And they tell me I'm a sick cunt if I don't go with that type, and they get really nasty about it. Yet they're always with these sexual people when they say it. All the time. All the threats I've had in my life nearly. And I will say something else. 99.9% of all threats and all trouble I've had since the day I was born is because of sexuality. So sexuality has been the cause of all problems right through my fucking life. On dating sites after the year of 2013, or when I moved to Burnham-on-Sea, it wasn't so often I was using it, but people in America were actually starting to moan about the age difference as well, saying it's 25 and not 18 anymore, or 21 anymore, or 16 anymore. And the same with people in Africa, wherever. So they're all pushing the age up, not just in the UK, but it's starting over in other countries, and telling me I'm a sick bastard. And actually, when I showed them a picture of this Lisa that I mentioned, the one I just told you about, the suggestion, the type I don't take to, even they're saying I've got to be with this type, even the people in Africa and America. Going back, before 2012, when I was using dating sites or contacting people in America, they were allowing ages old people older than me, even people in their early 20s. So even in this short period of time, people have changed dramatically. The other thing I want to mention is the older I get, the nastier the sexual threats get, and the nastier the violence occurs in my direction by people. And it's getting nastier and nastier the older and older I get. And obviously, like I said in the past, one of these days I will explode and it will go into retaliation, and I shall probably end up in jail retaliating with criminal damage or graffiti or something. I can see it coming. But like I said, who's the bastards that stopped me getting sex all my life? People are saying it's because you're mentally disabled. Well, that is true and it isn't true. But how can you socialise in places when people are threatening to knife you or carrying knives about to smash into your face and doing stuff like that? It makes it very difficult. So that's why I can't socialise. It wasn't until 2014 that I risked it. And even then, chairs and tables were going flying in cafes and bars, and windows being smashed, and glass bottles and glasses going across the table or whatever. So it's not easy. So there we are. 99% of all problems I had in my life is sexuality, and the other small percentage is terrorist, me retaliating to other threats, or because I've been attacked and got revenge or stuff like that. And one of those attacks was very close to when I accidentally hit Callum in the 2002 area, when I was someone smashed me in the back and nearly broke my back, and I was in a very happy mood and I had a couple of drinks not long after, and someone went to rip my can out of my hand, and Callum was in the way of the person that I wanted to hit, and I accidentally hit Callum, who's Amy Weston's brother. So I've tried to apologise to him for that at that time. Otherwise, I've never really sort of lashed out with anybody in my whole life. I've managed to control myself. But in recent times, usually if something goes wrong, I usually end up putting my fist through a window or doing something like that, which is very rare. The last time I did that was at St Mary's Church back in 2011 area, or maybe a bit before that. I can't remember where it was. It was in Bridgewater. But it happened at the wrong time because I accidentally left a knife in my pocket. And that's only because I was washing the other coat and I was using this coat, and I left it. I was doing two things. I was cutting wires with one knife, and I was making a cheese and onion sandwich with the other knife, and I left one of the knives in my pocket, and I forgot I had it in my pocket. Otherwise I wouldn't have shouted at the people in the church who were saying I was a child molester and I was a sick bastard, and I need to have my brains fucking bashed in at St Mary's Church in Bridgewater. Anyway, I didn't realise I had a knife on me, and then I realised I had a knife, so I had my knife on me, and I thought I've got to get rid of the knife. So I threw it, they picked up the knife, and then as they did, were saying, that's it, you're going down, you fucking rapist, that's it, you sick cunt, you child molester, you fucking raper, you child molester, ha ha ha, you're a child molester, you're going to prison, ha ha ha, you're a sick cunt. But at the time I did get arrested for the knife, just a couple of weeks before, the government enforced tighter laws on carrying a knife out, just before I got arrested for carrying a knife. So that came in very fitting for the government of trying to get me in jail. And also, at that time, they were taking the piss out of me, timing loud bikes to erections in that time period as well. It was also quite bad for that. Although it wasn't every bike on the road like it is today, there was definitely a lot of loud bike issues in that time period. Anyway, I got in trouble for it. I told the police what happened, and what I told the police is actually true. I didn't actually have that knife on me on purpose. It was actually genuinely left in my pocket accidentally. Otherwise I wouldn't have shouted at the church or put my fist through the glass of the windows when I was being told I was a sick cunt. And I didn't like it, and I wasn't taking it very nicely, because the fact that I'd been sexually abused as a child and never had sex in my whole life, I was never mentioning the stuff like me being sexually abused in that time period. It was only later on that I sort of put this stuff on the internet, but it wasn't easy, because obviously I didn't feel like putting that stuff on. I thought it would people would laugh at me or take the piss out of me or stuff like that. And obviously I didn't want to offend other people, like family, having to have to see that sort of information on there either or whatever. But yeah, things got worse, life got worse, people understood that things got worse. Then I started audio recording animal voice sounds and putting it on the internet, and then I recording threats and all the rest of it back at Bridgewater when I was living at Westbury. People started to realise that my life was getting worse and worse, and what I was saying was true, especially when it came to people that are not in authority, because people in authority don't sort of believe this as such. But many other people have, including the police. When I played them the recordings, they say it sounds very interesting and say, what has your doctor said about it or whatever. And over time the police have been a bit more happier with me, but it wasn't until at least going past the 2011-2012 period that they started to change, realise that all these people were making stuff up about me. But even though people were always giving me shit in that time period, a lot of the people that were giving me trouble at the Palace nightclub or in that area, or giving me shit like I've been mentioning on this video, people started to calm down come 2013, 2014, and like I said, it was a mixed up side then. I mean, people that threatened to kill me in 2005 or whatever have actually come up to me and said, sorry, we didn't realise that people were saying this and saying that I'm making it up, and that you were living there, and saying that they were saying that you were doing this down there when you weren't there anymore, and sort of, you know, they found out. And they're a bit more brainier, even the nasty people back in that time. I mean, it's never been good, and it's never been settled, it's never been, but you know that there were some people that would, you know, things started to calm down. but actually the actual Palace nightclub nights did calm down quite a lot. But how it calmed down this fast was quite unusual, but obviously it did. But then we had the knife attack occur. So you had Alex Lannis, as someone who I used to know in North Petherton. He's connected to Amy Weston. He had a mate called Lee Tremaine and whatever. And they lived at the back of mine. Now, I'm not going to get involved in all this because it's not my business, but there was a knife attack at Bridgewater Fair, and it's nothing to do with me. And it's not actually meant to be aimed at me, I don't believe. But whatever the issue is, because of this, I got gold banding with the council and I managed to move. Back in those days, the council worked the register different than they work it today. I'll come to that in a minute. But yeah, people started to say that I was a knife attacker, and people started to make stuff up about me, claiming that I and then obviously the accent started to change very slightly, not much, but there were some people who were giving that sort of. There wasn't a Cevennes threat, but it's the accent of the people that give me the threats of the Cevennes threat. Because the Cevennes threat didn't exist back at that time. Even when my dad's partner passed away in 2015, that Cevennes threat didn't even exist back then. Nor did the Liam threat. It wasn't until late 2016 or late 2017 did that Cevennes threat first begin. And I think the Liam threat came in just shortly after. I've always thought it was slightly after the Cevennes threat, but then if I go back on my pages and look at the Deep Depression Life Story Pack, there's been one or two things that's mentioned here and there, but it's not been very many things. In actual fact, the Liam threat's hardly at all. It still occurs and it can get nasty when it does occur, and some days it can be very frequent, but at the moment it just seems to be the Cevennes threat and people giving me trouble under my proper name, because that's on the increase as well. But when they give me trouble, as I was saying earlier, they're using this Cevennes interpretation when they mention threats under my proper name. Going back to this issue of because of being mentally disabled, that's why you haven't got anybody. It's not just that, but like I said, it's not just because people are too rough to socialise with or whatever. But these girls only want to go with these boys that are strong, or these people that think they know it all, or think they're hard or whatever. And because they are at one mindset, they only go for these types of people, and it's always been the same. And because they're always in crowds of people, all these crowds on housing estates have always singled me out and whatever. And back in school days, it was not possible to get a girlfriend because everyone's in a sexual relationship with someone on their estate. Even Lisa Pike, although I pretended to be her girlfriend, even she had a boyfriend that wasn't me. But she didn't mind us pretending to be girlfriend and boyfriend because people were taking the piss and starting. So if we do that, then obviously people won't start taking a piss or whatever, or saying, oh, haha, you ain't got a girlfriend or whatever, you know, all that sort of stuff. So that's what happened. Anyway, in modern times, not only have they moaned about the age gap or whatever, but let's go back to this prostitute issue, because back in the 1990s, well, in Victorian days, as I was saying earlier, people would have had sex with children. That was the norm, you know. But obviously, that always goes on. It's been going on right up until the 90s. The only change there's been is since the beginning of the mobile phone. That's when things started to change. So everything's been the same right up until the times of the mobile phone. So obviously, people moaning about differences in age started to begin in the late 1990s. So it didn't really, you know, but even then, or even in early 2000s, people my age today, at 43, coming up 44, could still get a female girlfriend aged 18. In actual fact, I've not had many people that have liked me in my life that are female. All blonde people hate me, right through my whole life. Any blonde person I see hates me. The nearest type of person would be the fair hair type that looks similar to Olivia Binfield from Britain's Got Talent. That is the nearest to blonde that you'll get of a type of female that likes me, or has liked me in some point in my life. If we come to the last 5 years, you've basically got nobody at all. I mean, even Gemma doesn't like me. I mean, there's a possibility she was okay with me on the beach but you've got to take into account I'm nearly 5 years older than that now. But if we go back up to about 5 years ago, there's literally hardly any type of female that likes me. The nearest type would be, as I said, that Gemma looking type. And another type that likes me would be Britney Spears type likes me, believe it or not. But that's 10 years ago when I seen a person that looks like that, or just over 10 years ago, or a bit, so it's quite a long time ago. But that type seemed to like me as well. Not all, I would imagine, but things can change. The older you get, the types of people that liked you back then don't like you today. I used to get liked by these sexy type of new age type ladies, or what look similar. So like the sexy type of smooth skin faces, or the ladies that have like two long bits of hair either side of their head, and their black or dark hair styled in a sexy way, slim build, sexy face, smooth skin, sort of look sexy, or the smiley type but has smooth skin, slightly rounded face, a curvy type body, or very jokeable, whatever. I've been liked by those types of people, but not for a long time. Quite literally, I'm the nearest. If we look at me moving to Yeovil, the nearest type of person that likes me today, out of all these types, it's probably the nearest person that's actually like me is that a person that looks like the poodle dog, the one I was talking about earlier, who I thought I could try and get with, and I couldn't because they turned her against me, or people have mistaken her as her age, being 20 years younger than what it is. That's probably the nearest, actually. It's hard to say, and it could be others. As far as blonde people go, females, sexual types, I've literally been hated by everybody right through my whole life. Anyway, let's get to the mobile phone network, shall we? Because since around about 2008, in the UK, not so much in other countries, people started moaning that if they don't have you in their friends list on their mobile phone, they don't want to know you, and not to make friends or to get to know people that are strangers. So prostitutes were doing that. And then obviously in that sort of time period, prostitutes would only start giving blowjobs and not intercourse or sex, like hardcore sex, which is basically sex without any clothes on, proper raw sex without a johnny on, a condom, that means, if you don't know what johnny means. Hardcore sex, or extreme hardcore, or whatever, means proper sex without a condom on, with no clothes on, and enjoying sex properly, as it should be. But today, people's minds are different, and they don't see that. A prostitute won't give that, say. Even Jesus Christ had a prostitute. So if you're being violated by a prostitute, that's one big mistake Jesus Christ has made, because Jesus Christ had sex with a prostitute. But not only has Jesus Christ had sex with a prostitute, as I mentioned earlier, but the prostitute he had sex with was only 11 years of age. However, some people think it's only 9. But it depends on the translation of what people are giving on this information of these manuscripts. People are trying to say it's 9 or not 11, but nobody knows the truth, but they know it's one of those years. And you've got to take into account when he had sex with her, he was in his 20s. Since about 2013-ish, 2014, things are getting a lot more tighter. I've spoken to prostitutes or whatever, and it's only Asian prostitutes you get now. Since around about 2010-ish onwards, you'd only see Asian prostitutes. But I've been trying to get a partner, a proper partner, rather than going for a prostitute. I mean, I want sex because I've not had it, and there's times where you feel like you need sex, but at times you feel like you need sex, what they're doing is they're timing thousands of loud bites tying to an erection each day on the road, rather than finding a partner for me. But what they have been doing, not only doing that, but they also time lookalikes to people who sexually abused me as a child tying to an erection, if they can't get a bike timed. But usually, and since the lockdowns are finished, they got every single bike on the road tied to an erection. Since that time, literally, there's hardly ever a bike. But then again, if we go back to 2015 and 2016, and a section of 2017, there's less than 40 bikes, and in 1 year, every bike on the road was tied to an erection of a specific year. Every erection of that year, my willy was fixed like a pulley, and I was fucking fuming. And I think it might have been just before or after I got in trouble with 10 Downing Street because I was messaging them because I was getting fucked off with it. And that's the British government in the UK, 10 Downing Street. Anyway, so going back to this prostitute issue, I've spoken to an Asian prostitute because they're a bit more intelligent than the people that are white. And they said the only way you're going to get sex now, or the sex that you want, and because you've got mental health problems and all the rest of it, they said basically the only way you're going to get it is to get involved with people you know, so family, friends or relatives or friends. But the problem is no one can help me because no one is available in the family. There's nobody in the family. That's the problem. The other thing you've got to think about is not everybody likes me, and there are certain things that people have said in the past and they're saying I'm stupid because I won't follow that instruction, but they don't realise the backstory of that instruction is not passable because that section of people don't like me or things like that, but people don't understand that. That's another thing that people are messing up on, and they're just saying that you're stupid, that you're absolutely stupid, and saying you can get sex by doing that or doing this or whatever, but they don't understand the backstory to it. They don't understand the circumstances, and they don't understand that these, like for example, if that person there, they say, well, she's single, cool, why don't you ask her? You're absolutely stupid because you're not asking her. Well, she might not like me. It's just as simple as that. You know, you can't tell people. They don't know. They work with noetic science probably, trying to rip me to pieces or whatever, you know, for example. But whatever the situation is, they don't have a backstory. They don't know what's going on. So they think the obvious, and they just tell you you're stupid because you won't try and make friendship with that person, not knowing that that person hates you. And the other thing that people have told me is, you're absolutely fucking stupid. Ask her out, you stupid cunt. She's only 10 years younger than you. That's not a problem. But they don't realise that if there's more than a few years difference in age, even 2 years, nowadays, they fucking kick off on one. Going back to New Year's Eve, 2022 into 2023, I was talking to a Ukrainian woman aged 25, and she was telling me I was a real sick bastard. She was the firstly, she was the one that added me because she fancied me. But she didn't know my age. She just fancied the way I look. And when I told her what my age is, and she asked what your age is in the picture, I said it's the same age. And she told me I was a sick bastard, saying, no, you're too old. Right on the countdown to New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. And on that specific year, there's a whole load of threats being shouted outside to bash me and to knife me dead, to beat my fucking brains up, to fucking knife me, to bash me to fucking pieces and put me in a hospital bed, saying I'm a sick cunt, child molester and all the rest of it, by people outside my place. So, yeah, it's been really bad. And that's in Yeovil. The year before, there was no problems at all. But I would only have moved there 3 months before New Year's Eve last year. Incidentally, the first 3 months that I moved to my place, and the whole of that year, 2022, is the nastiest it's ever been. I had over 200 threats on Christmas Eve of 2021 while visiting Street, Glastonbury and Wells, using the bus service, public transport, before returning back home in Yeovil. And also, I almost had to call 999 as one rough person, big-headed type person, you know, sort of looks very similar to the pop singer Dave in Scooter, but a bit more like a football suggested type person who's a sort of gobby person who would start a fight if you get in his way. Fair hair. Went to go after me. Got nasty with me, thinking I was saying I'm breaking all your fucking bones and legs. You're a fucking sick cunt. You fucking child molester. And I couldn't do nothing about it. And then he photographed me and said, and he sort of went up to me. So I had to sort of call 999, go into a shop to avoid getting attacked. And that's in the midst of the 200 threats roughly on that specific day. So yeah, things are not getting better. They're getting a lot worse. So, you know, the worse my life gets, the nastier I get. But the problem is, they've already cut my throat. I'm too old to have sex because they won't allow the age difference. No one's going to help me, you see. No one at all. We've got one thing I can rely on, and that's Yvonne. That's the only thing I can do is rely on Yvonne. Yvonne is a girlfriend that a clairvoyant has predicted for me. Was it last week or the week before when I had the reading? I can't remember now. I think it's just a bit before last week. Well, basically what she said is It can't fall through. She picked up on other clairvoyant readings. You know, she said that they got it wrong and that these girlfriends that had been predicted, they weren't as accurate as they should have been. This is without me saying anything. But I got to rely on Yvonne. This Yvonne's younger than me. It's going to be someone I fancy. I'm not sure what the age is because she didn't say what the age is. She made it sound like she could be a lot younger. So it's possibly that 1 in a million where they accept a bit of an age gap. I don't know what the age gap is. It might only be a couple of years age gap, but whoever it is, apparently this is going to be someone that I fancy, someone that loves you, and she's going to be in a relationship with you before Christmas 2024, or around Christmas 2024. And she said the earliest you're going to start to know her is basically the start of June, but it could be a couple of months in from now, from when I had the reading, which is just before June, to, or around June, I can't remember, it's start of June, no, May something, late May, sorry, to whenever, yeah, so it is 2 weeks ago. Right, so yeah, it didn't give any much information on this, Yvonne. I have to remember the name wrong. That's Ron, sorry, yeah, Ron, wrong, and one. To remember that name, because it's not an easy name to remember, because I've never heard of the name before. I've never seen it on the internet, and I spelt it as I-V-O-N when I initially wrote it down. And then I found out the next day it's spelt Y-V-O-N-N-E. But also, at the time, the following day after I had that reading, I mentioned this earlier, I think, they timed a Yvonne van followed by a No Chance van. So I thought to myself, if the government or the elite or whoever's putting crooked force against me like that fucks this clairvoyant reason up, I should go absolutely fucking on one. And they're going to criminal damage and fucking graffiti and everything. I thought to myself, I'll just lose my plot. I thought, you don't fuck around when people are in their fucking mid-40s and early, when they've been sexually abused and not had sex in their whole life. But it seems that these bastards that want to rip me to pieces want to continue doing it, regardless. And also, the following day after that, I went to get the bus service. I thought it was a nice cloudy day. I thought it was a bit cooler today. Why not go on the bus? And they deliberately stopped me getting on the bus service. And then there was a whole load of setups and a whole load of fucking trouble as I was walking away from the bus station going to Plan B. And they fucked up Plan B, so I had to go back to mine and stay in for the day. And put up with a load of fucking threats and loud bites to erections. And then after that, when I got up the next day, I had a migraine. So I was ill all day. I can't remember what I did on the following day. So, yeah, it's not good. But I can't rely on anybody I've known in the past. Anyone at all. Even this Emma. She's not really the sexiest type person. But even she doesn't like me either. Where they twisted me as Savenne, and because she didn't actually remember me, she doesn't actually remember me, but she was in Gareth Morecambe's class, which is at Avalon School. She was actually in the same class as me, but she can't remember me. I don't know why that is, but then again, there's people I don't remember from school days, you know. I might see them now and not remember them, so, you know, you can't blame people for not remembering. But I have noticed it's very cursed in the way it's done, because all the people that have forgotten me always seem to be the sexual type people throughout my life. It's always seemed to be the negative looking people that seem to remember me when it comes to females. I don't know why that is, but that has always been the case. But anyway, I'll leave it there on that bit. But if we go back to this prostitute issue, or people in general when they're making friendship, even on dating sites since 2012 onwards, people won't make friendship with you unless they know you in person or in their phone or their phones list. And they've told me on dating sites that don't add me. You just go to a random person and you speak to them, and they just say, do I know you? Or, why do you fucking add me? And say, because you just messaged me, I'm going to get my fucking ex-boyfriend, and when he sees you in the street, he's going to put a knife in you and smash you on that fucking floor, and saying, you don't fucking message people you don't know in person. You know, it's all like that on dating sites. And it's been much more aggressive than that. I've been threatened with murder, extreme violence, being told I'm a fucking rapist and paedophile, and, you know, many different things like that throughout the years on dating sites. That's on the rare messages that I get. You can message 500 people. I've messaged up to about 500 people in 2 weeks on the dating site before now, and not one person's replied. And, you know, and all they reply, if they do reply occasionally on these dating sites, saying, I'm a sexual. When they reply, they say, I'm asexual. Well, yeah, well, I don't take to the negative type, that look like a face that looks like it's full of shingles, or like they got tomato ketchup in their mouths and rotted teeth and misted up glasses and greasy, unclean, unwashed hair, or, gizmo eyes, or rashes all over their body and fat build or whatever. I don't take to that type. But you can't tell people that. They just don't understand. They just put you down as a sick cunt because you don't go with the other type. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The older I get, the worse it's going to get and the more harder it's going to get. The problem is, I already have grey hair coming. And I'm being told if I don't fancy a lady with grey hair, I'm a sick cunt. So basically, I'm being told I'm supposed to be fancying grannies. But even the setups, you're taking into account all these malicious setups that are being caused by pre-organised force or criminal organised action that's being taken against me. They're not taking into account. These bastards that are nailing me as a sick cunt have probably had sex with teenagers or people in their 20s and 30s, yet they got the cheek to fucking nail me as a sick cunt when I've had nothing in my whole life apart from being sexually abused as a child. But they don't give a fuck. They just want to get nasty and aggressive and nail me as a sick cunt and tear me to pieces. That's the way it is. So, got to mention it. On nasty days, they'll even make the suggestion, we fucking slice your wrist with the proper creator or the proper God to land you in jeopardy and to land you in the fucking fire of hell to burn in jeopardy because of sexuality. And, these setups at the moment, the violence, or they're making the suggestion that we're raging, we're going absolutely psycho on you, we're going fucking psychopathic at polar speed, we're going to be as menacing as fucking anything. We're going to rip your fucking life apart. We're going to take your life to fucking pieces. We're going to take you fucking down. We're going to play about with you in a fireplace and play with you with poker sticks in your next life and sexually abuse you and fucking guts in and out you as a baby on the floor before throwing you in the fireplace and playing about with you with poker sticks and burning you to fucking death. They're getting as violent as that. I mean, that setup, what I just mentioned, was being done all across Portland and Weymouth when I visited and camped there in 2022. That suggestion alone, and that suggestion is only just sort of began since the lockdown, especially when it comes to burning me as a baby when I'm born in my next life sort of thing. So yeah, they're getting nastier and nastier with it. But the actual sexuality of it all is the nastiest I've ever known it out of all setups that have ever occurred since I started noticing the setups in 2003-ish. Before it became obvious in 2005, and then it clicked that it's being set up properly. But before 2005, I was taking it as coincidence, or why is this happening, God, sort of thing. I actually chucked, I can't remember how many sheets it was, but somewhere between 100 and 300 sheets of my daily problems. I chucked it out and put my faith in God back in 2005 area. And it's just in the time period when I had a PC, Millennium Edition Windows, and I had a WordPad on there, and I was able to type stuff out rather than putting it on paper anymore. So I thought to myself, well, there's a lot of trouble that's occurred on these sheets. I mean, really nasty trouble. There really was nasty trouble. But, but I decided to pray to God, chuck those sheets away, and what happens when I chuck those sheets away? My life gets 10 times worse. So, you certainly don't know what to do. There's a few other things that I want to mention, and that is, in the past, and even recently in fact, I've mentioned that I've never had anyone in my whole life. And people just start a row, get nasty with me, and saying that's what perverts say, and paedophiles say, and whatever, and saying it's a sly way to say that you want to grab a girl and fucking rape her, and saying that you're a sick bastard, I'm going to rip your fucking life apart, or going to fucking knife you down or smash your fucking head off and stuff like that. So people say that. And when you say stuff like that you prefer a younger age woman and you're more adaptable to that when you've not had anyone before or whatever, that just makes people nasty, and people just get absolutely aggressive and start shouting, threatening to kill you, threatening to smash you in, to bash your fucking head across the room like a fucking rugby ball, and saying I'm fucking ready. Paedophile or child rapists keep on giving him hell while banging in sequence to threats, or saying I'm going to fucking smash all his fucking teeth out. He's got to fucking stop his fucking mouth from fucking bullshitting and saying stuff like that. It gets really, really nasty. This is the problem. You don't have your say. So when you're even though you're telling the truth, people don't believe it. People have their own thoughts, and they got to go with what they're told by everybody else. You're outnumbered. So when all this trouble occurs, you're fucked basically. You just got to accept being ripped to fucking pieces. And this is why eventually I'm going to explode and end up in jail. for being sexually crucified, basically. Because there's nothing I can do about it, because I will eventually. I mean, it's already started. I've already started losing my temper. I've already broken things. You know, I've broken a candle in the church. I lost my temper several weeks ago because of all this action and threats. And I'm only going to get worse and worse, unless I get a partner, of course, someone I can fancy sexually. But the problem is, there are people I can fancy in my age group, but it's very far and few between. You're looking at about 1 in 10,000 people, sort of thing. There's people up to the age of 60, but if you go any higher than 60, it's very difficult. I can't fancy people over the age of 60, really, when it's female. I mean, 60 is possibly the highest I can fancy. But that's only you're looking at 1 in 1,000 people that have that sexual smooth skin in that age group. That's the problem. I have seen people almost a granny that have this smooth skin, but it's extremely rare. There's one person I really fancied that has funny eyes. She went into Burnham Library, but the problem is, when I saw her in Wellington, she fell out with me because people told her I'm Sven. I mean, she was sexy. She had a nice, smooth, soft body, and she was about 60-ish with grey hair. The only thing that was not too good looking, I mean, her face wasn't bad looking. I could fancy her, but her face was slightly, you could see the old appearance in it. But later down the line, I was told, because I fancied that specific person by people at Burnham-on-Sea, that's paedophile attraction, and you're fucking sick, and you're a sly paedophile, saying that you're not supposed to fancy that sort at all. Anyone is sexual, you're not supposed to fancy. If anyone has a face or a body and it looks like it's someone that's good looking, you look away, and saying, or you get your fucking brains fucking smashed in, or you fucking be knifed to the floor, or you fucking have your life taken, or be shot dead. That's what they say, and they get nastier. And the older I get, as I said, the nastier it gets. Quickly going back to this clairvoyant reading, whoever this Yvonne is, she did make the suggestion that she's going to be helping me out, so whether that's a move, or whether she's just going to help me in general, sort of getting me out of the shit I'm in, or the what I'm stuck in, or whatever, I'm not sure about, but she did make that suggestion. But the bad news is, all the transformation, or all the changes in my life, of all the bad things that are happening, are not going to change until this Yvonne actually comes into my life. Which is not good news if that reading was to fall through, because with Home Finder and moving out of my place, she had no prediction whatsoever to say anything's going to be done in that sort of way. All these changes are going to take place through this girlfriend called Yvonne, who is supposed to be coming into my life any time from 8 days ago to the next couple of months. But Christmas 2024, I'm actually going to be in a full relationship with this person, and it's going to be that quickly. She did tell me this, and she said it's not made up. I mean, clairvoyant readings can only be taken as a pinch of salt, but this one sounded a bit more interesting than the others. It's the fact that some of the stuff that she said made me believe her more than other clairvoyants I've had readings with in the past, including that Sue Hudd, who was quite accurate with most things. But like I said, you just have to wait until that time comes. And obviously, she did say it's going to be pretty nasty over the next few months, and I'm going to be facing challenges, I'm going to be facing risks, problems, people giving it some, she said that. She didn't say it as, as how I'd say it, but you knew she meant for all this. But, let's just see what happens, shall we? The next thing I want to mention is they were going to do away with public transport. The government wanted to do away with public transport, but it was in a time period when all the trouble was escalating and where people were starting on me in the street of Bridgwater back at that time. I can't remember the year, but I think it's in the 2007 sort of area. I was pushed in the canal in Bridgwater, the Bridgwater to Taunton Canal. Well, I didn't realise until later on that a couple of days before I was pushed in that canal, a dead body was in that canal. So the DNA or whatever was from my clothing went in that canal, and I could have got done for murder. I found out later on, after I'd been pushed in that canal, that the underwater search team, forensic vehicles, were there looking for clues to find out why that person had died. they've been using a catalytic converter on a car exhaust since the year 1997. But I've noticed it's only been done in my lifetime. So they started in 1997, and then they used the back end of a car to control my movement or to choke me out with a catalytic converter which smells similar to vinegar mixed with the smell of rubbing 2 stainless steel knives against garden cress, except 50 to 100 times stronger than how it would smell if you were smelling it from the knife, possibly even stronger than that depending on what you'd rate the strength of stronger. But also they're doing away with catalytic converters on engine ran cars, so we're going into electric cars. But why only cause it in the time period that I'm here on earth and make sure that they sexually hanged me first before they've done away with it to disguise the evidence for the future generations of what they did when I was alive? There is only one clairvoyant that's actually given a first name and a second name to a girlfriend that they predicted for me some years ago, and that's the name Claire Cheshire. It turns out there is a Claire Cheshire, but she's got me down as a sick cunt because of the age gap, even though she's not that young. There was a nasty stage where things started to turn sinister straight after like a calmish spell, which was in the time period I was living in Bridgewater. But when I was visiting Highbridge or Burnham-on-Sea, between the years of 2012 and 2013, there was a lot of nasty, vicious trouble that was occurring in my direction in that particular time period. And also, when I felt a change of expansions in my life, or changes where it felt like things have been mislaid, or your life has been put out of place, or things started to change nastily, would have been around mid to late 2012. When I started to feel really low in life, or felt really down, I was actually feeling quite low before I moved from Bridgewater and West Street, where I was lying on the floor. But I didn't feel extremely low. I knew there was time left. I knew I could possibly get a girlfriend. I was low, but there was still something there where you could feel half good. When I moved to Burnham-on-Sea, I felt a lot lower. But as soon as I've moved to Yeovil, apart from the first few months I moved there, I'm the lowest and the most under I have ever felt in my entire life. Even on the times where I've felt suicidal, I actually feel lower than the times of when I was suicidal. It's just that I don't have the oomph in me to commit suicide, or just cannot be bothered. But there's something that goes against me, because the Holy Bible says, if you were to look on a Christian point of view, but let's go back to what I was saying earlier. What was it? Bohemian Grove. What was it he said? Yahweh, don't burn me again, or something like that. It's gone out of my head now. I know what it says, but I just can't remember the saying. But if you look at that, then obviously you've got to consider that the Christian God might not be the right God. But anyway, the Bible is against masturbation before marriage. But what's God let me have in my whole life at the age of nearly 44 years of age? No sex at all. You know, or if he has tried to allow me to have something, it's been done in a sly way to make it look like I've had someone when I haven't, sort of thing. Very plain, very clever the way that he's done it, like the prostitute I mentioned earlier, and Jeanette Prostitute, and the and Wayne's World or whatever. So God's whatever's causing it is being done in a very sly way, sneakily, to rip me to pieces, basically. Committing suicide is a detestable sin if you believe in the Christian religion, and you can go to hell forever and ever, to burn forever and ever if you commit suicide, because they believe that you should be putting your faith in God instead of that, and saying that God will help you. Well, it certainly does, doesn't he, with what I've mentioned on this video. I mean, there's many Bible verses that are against me, and they're all fucking nasty, I tell you that. I mean, I don't like to insult Christians or whatever, because some of these people are nice people. Obviously not the people that I've seen in recent times, but people I've seen in the past, say many years ago. But it's not very helpful, is it, when the Bible's twisted against people that have had a nasty life. The other problems that I've had in my life, when I walked to North Petherton Carnival, I can't remember the year it is, I think it's 2008. There's a bloke aged about 50, right, fucking a girl. Somewhere around the age of 11 to 13, I'm not sure what the age is. And that 11-year-old to 13-year-old girl She got nasty about it. She saw me. She picked up stones and sticks and threw it at me as I was walking on the path next to her. And they were both shouting at me, you know. And I thought to myself, he's a hard fucker, you know. You don't want to mess with him. He's like 50 years of age. You know, that's older than I am now. And he was just fucking this 11-year-old girl and this 11 to 13-year-old girl, or whatever you want to call it. And it seems, you know, like she was guarding him, you know. You wouldn't see that today. And that's just in 2008. And the amount of people that were starting on me on those carnival floats, I mean, they went through the loudspeaker one year. I think it was the year before, I'm not sure. But they were mentioning that Justin's raped her through the loudspeaker, make his life hell, rip him to pieces. And I thought to myself, yeah, you're lying about me. And you shouldn't be doing that. It's against the law. But they don't give a fuck. You had the fire brigade outside the Palace nightclub. This is audio recorded. I got the recordings today in my life story Deep Depression pack, as I named it back at that time. And I haven't lost that specific Deep Depression pack either. And that's not one of them that got lost, because I've lost a lot of my stuff. Even evidence at times when I've been accused of having sex with females. And there's nothing I can do about the evidence, because, you know, it's got lost on the computer, or it's somewhere got destroyed, or USB sticks are broken with that information on it, sort of thing. So there is times, but most of the stuff that I got is pretty much safe. And this is the stuff that I've been posting to foreign governments to get my say before I'm fucking knocked off. And usually when I post it, it's usually when times get really nasty. And it's usually at sexual times as well. Last year it was on the 9th of June. Not last year, year before. And even when I posted it on the 9th of June, when I was in Yeovil Post Office, I was nearly being attacked because someone kicked off who just came back from Glastonbury Festival. So yeah, it's not good. The fire brigade at the Palace nightclub were basically saying Justin raped her, knife him down or kill him or take his life apart, tear him apart and stuff like that. I can't remember the exact what I recorded, but it's very similar to that. And obviously that could be another reason why it calmed down, incidentally, because when this sort of thing was going on, this was also the sort of time period that there was calm stages at the Palace nightclub, but it didn't really go calm until around the year of 2012. And it was a mixed side, you know. We had all these problems, you know, the Fathers for Justice event, like the scaffolding up by mine and what I've already mentioned. But there has been many, many problems like this right through since I left home, basically, which was North Peverton, because I was living at North Peverton before I moved to Bridgewater in 2005. In the short time period, I knew this Claire Cheshire, which is what a clairvoyant predicted. I've never seen her face to face, but she turned against me on the internet from dating, and she was added on Facebook later on. But what happened was she was moaning about my age. She's one of those of the earlier people that are moaning about the age difference. She looks almost like Stephanie Hill. Same sort of smoothness, maybe a bit smoother, I don't know. Same sort of body, but where Stephanie's got like a fatter build, although it's a sexy, smooth type of fatty build, she'd have the same type of body, smoothness, but it would have been a sort of slimmer type. And she was roughly a little bit younger than Stephanie, but not by much. But obviously the clairvoyant was wrong and that fell through. Anyway, I'm going to leave it all there. Let's just hope this Evolve comes into my life before Christmas 2024. If it doesn't, I can see my life getting worse and worse and fucking worse. Nothing I can do about it. No one's going to help me. No one's going to find me a partner. You're not going to get a prostitute, because that's not possible. Prostitutes have not been possible for years. And it's only the Asian people that are doing it, and they're only giving blowjobs. And since the lockdown, they won't even have communication with you. And it was anything from 120 quid to 250 quid for a shag, but if it's an ugly person, what I call the Lisa type, you can get a shag for about 60 quid, and that's not the sort that I go for. And when I say not a shag, sorry, a blowjob, they only give you blowjobs today, sorry. And since the lockdown, they'll only give you phone calls and charge you for the phone call with a direct debit card while you masturbate, while you speak to them on the phone, and charge you £1,000 to £1,500 as they've upped their prices since the lockdown. So it's fucking pathetic, to be honest. So I'm not going to get anyone, I'm just going to have to be sexually fucking ripped to pieces. But one of these days I'm going to end up in jail, I'm going to end up retaliating, there's going to be a lot of trouble, or I could end up smashed in a fucking hospital bed even, all because of lies on sexuality. So let's see how my life fucking goes from there, shall we? Thanks for listening to this documentary.